Hey, everybody. I hope you had a fantastic week in markets. It was not a boring one. We had a great week. Some big trades in Costco, Reddit, VST, Meta, some really, really nice winners there. But I wanted to talk to you today about a situation with a member who reached out to me and said, well, what should I do in this particular situation? He had sold a put vertical, a bull vertical spread on Microsoft before everything kind of started to collapse on the Monday. And so let's talk about what happened and how he should look at this particular situation. You're not going to hear much about this as a market maker who traded for many, many years, having to know synthetics and having to turn my positions into something different by looking at things from a synthetic standpoint. I'm going to show you what the position actually is in the end and where the mistakes can be. So let's dive right into it. Just a reminder, everyone, of the disclaimer. So anything we talk about today is for educational, entertainment, and information purposes only. Okay, before we get started, I have to tell you about my event coming up on the 15th, 16th. It's going to be live training each day for 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to be teaching my enhanced wheel option selling system and a bunch more stuff about volatility, about how you should think of the game of option selling, some critically important things for you to realize before you even consider embarking in this kind of business. There'll be tons of bonuses, bonus courses, bonus everything. It's going to be incredible. So go to this. I'm going to put the description down below, and it's going to be a fantastic time. Check it out. Check out the website. See all the things that you get, and we'll see you there. So what the client did on Microsoft was sell a bull put vertical spread. So a bull put vertical spread is a trade that you do when you expect the stock to stay above a certain level by a certain expiry date. Now it could drop below that level before expiry, but generally speaking, you're going to want it to stay above that level. You're going to receive a credit for that trade, and you're going to hope to collect the balance, the full credit on that trade. So in this case, with the stock trading around 451, he went and sold the 442 put at the January 31st expiry, and then as protection, bought the 437 half put behind it. And the reason you buy that put behind it is because you're basically not wanting to have full exposure to the downside with Microsoft. If you just sell the 442 half put, you are going to do that cash secured, but you are going to have full downside to Microsoft below that strike price, minus the credit that you receive for that. Now, buying that lower put is going to really, really reduce the amount of the credit that you get versus just selling that 442 half put, but you're getting something extremely important. And in this case, we're going to see how it worked out. You're getting this extra bit of protection below a certain amount. So it's a little bit less aggressive, because it gives you that protection. It's a lot more capital efficient as well. You don't have to put up the entire cash to secure just the cash secured put. You only have to put up basically the $5 less the credit. So much, much more capital efficient. But the idea is that he sort of looked out and he said, this previous top here was around 437 and a half. So I'm going to sell the 442 half, buy the 437 and a half, and try to capture this sort of credit in here, which was $1 for that, which leaves you with risk of $4. So you can make $1 and lose $4 if it moves down below that lower strike, 437 and a half. Now, if it stays up around here or anywhere higher, then you're going to collect that full $1. Now, what happened was he got assigned. So Microsoft dropped. Of course, the news came out on DeepSeek, which was negative for Microsoft and Nvidia and a few names that have really been the poster children for AI, as we've known it for the last couple of years. And sure enough, it dropped down to around 420, 415, 420, and he's got an issue. So come Thursday, he reaches out to me. In the community, everybody has access to me at all times, well, whenever I'm available. And he says, listen, I got assigned on my short put. So the short put, the 442 half put, is a put that the counterparty, the person he sold this put to, in fact, it's anonymous, but this person exercised that put, which left my member with a long stock position because he was obligated to buy stock at 442.50. And he still has this long 437 half put. So right now his position is long 100 shares of Microsoft and long the 437 put. This is his position. So I want to take a look at what this means because he said, Hans, what do I do? Should I sell out these positions? Typically, that's what I do. Should I sell one? What should I do? Should I roll it? Should I do something? Let's take a look at the different permutations of how this works. Okay, now first off, I want to explain a little bit about synthetics, guys. It's very important because what I explained to the members, I said, listen, what you are sitting on right now is effectively what I would consider a free synthetic call, right? So how does that work? What do you mean, Hans? I'm long 100 shares of Microsoft. I'm long one of the 437 half puts, and it's trading at 418, I think it was at the time. Microsoft's at 418. Now, for those of you who've taken my programs and learned a little bit about synthetics, you're going to know that long stock plus long put equals a call, right? So this is a very, very important thing. As you're a market maker, you really have to understand these relationships. But options are kind of held together. The glue that holds them together is something called put-call parity. There's a relationship, which, funny, I hear stories from old market makers I used to tell me stories all the time when I worked on the floor, and they said, oh, there were times where people didn't understand synthetics in the 80s, and we would take advantage of each other. It was completely bizarre. Some people were receiving, interest on credit positions. Some people weren't even paying any interest on long debit positions. So this was the Wild West back then. But now we know that these synthetics are really, really important, and everybody has to know about them or you're going to get caught with your pants down. So long stock plus long put equals a long synthetic call. And I'm going to show you how that looks. Okay, so we don't have the Jan 31 available anymore in my platform here to show you, but let's look at what the position looked like before. So we're just going to use a Feb 7th expiry, which is a 1 week later expiry, and let's talk about what this thing looks like. So our risk profile looks like this for a short vertical, put vertical in Microsoft. If Microsoft drops below 440, we're going to lose the full amount of the trade, which in his case was the $4. You're trying to make a dollar, potentially losing 4 on the way down, which is going to be your maximum loss. But the good news is he had that 337 half put, which prevented a much, much larger loss, would have been another $20 or so in terms of the full loss. So it did limit his downside. So it was a very, very smart play in the end. Now, the question was, he got assigned. So what does it turn into? Well, let's take a look right here. You no longer have that structure exactly as you saw it. Now he's been assigned. So he's long 100 shares of Microsoft. Now he owns the 437 half put without that short put anymore, right? He's been assigned. So this is what the position suddenly looks like. And if you look carefully at this, you might guess as to what this really looks like compared to, some of the performance graphs you've seen for options. Well, yeah, exactly. It looks like a long call. So now the situation is long 100 shares. It's long the 337 half put, which means above 337 half, you're going to be long 100 shares. So think about this. The way that you can kind of reason this synthetic call is that, well, what's the 337 half put worth at the current price of, let's say, 414? So basically that's $22.50. So that's what the put is worth. You are long shares. Now, if the stock goes up, what would that put be worth? Well, eventually it's going to be worth zero, right? Right now it's worth $22.50 down to 414, but above 337.5, with this thing expiring in a few days, let's think, because at the time when he put the position on, when he was assigned, there were only a couple days left. So what's this thing going to be worth at 450? Well, the put's going to be worth zero, but I'm long shares. So the long shares are able to make money nonstop to infinity, basically, to the upside. So the nice thing about this is when you're long this in the money put and long stock with no time value on it anymore, let's say there's extremely little time value on it, which was the case at that point with 1 day left, might have been 8 or 10 cents of time value in that particular option. Well, the put eventually will go to zero, but the long stock is going to continue to appreciate. You basically created a long synthetic call to the upside, right? That's exactly the position. So I said, well, look, you can hold on to this position because it's basically expiring in a couple days. And you have this free call. Now, with Microsoft plunging $25, who knows? Some news could come out. Now, this wasn't the case, but some news could come out and, they could debunk DeepSeek or whatever it is. And just, Microsoft might open back up at 450. So what happens if it opens back up at 450? Well, you're going to print $12.50 on this free synthetic call that you've got on. Now he said, well, what if I just sell out the whole position? Well, you could sell out the 100 shares. You're going to get a great result because the spreads on the stock are extremely tight. What about on the put though? You're long a $22.50 put, way in the money. You can bet that market maker is probably bidding at least 10 cents lower than fair value for that. He's going to be bidding less than intrinsic value. So you might be losing that dime. So I said, well, under normal circumstances, a market maker might exercise that put because there's a calculation that he does. But in this particular case, because you have to deal with slippage and what's going on out there, I would say in this particular case, you're probably better off just waiting and letting yourself get basically assigned. You're going to exercise that put and the whole position will disappear overnight, right? On Monday, you're going to come out with no position anymore. But in the meantime, over a couple of days, you have this free upside. So you want to hold on to that. Now, how does a market maker decide whether that put should be exercised? Well, this is how, as a market maker, I used to look at this. I would say, look, basically this position, I'm long and in the money put, I'm long stock against it, right? Because I'm always delta hedging. We talk about gamma and all that stuff these days because we're assuming that market makers and professional institutions are basically hedged a good chunk of the time. Now, if I'm long that put, I can bet you guaranteed I'm going to be long 1-for-1 with that put. If I'm long 10 puts, I'm going to be long 1,000 shares. I'm not holding on to any kind of short delta on this position with a couple days left. This is how I would calculate it. I'd say, well, look, I basically got 437 half debit on, right? So I'm long stock. I'm long this in the money put. I've got a lot of basically interest, some carry cost to this position. So the calculation that you make is, well, should I exercise this put a little bit early? Well, you should, as long as the carry cost is higher than the time value that is basically left in that call, the associated call, right? So that 437.5 put, you look at the calls and you go 36 cents. So if I figure out the carry cost, which over 6 days, let's say is about 5 cents a day, over 6 days, that's going to be 30 cents. So my carry cost to hold this position as a market maker is 30 cents. But the synthetic equivalent call is worth 36 cents. So I'm not going to exercise those puts. If I exercise those puts, I'm basically getting rid of a synthetic call that is actually worth more than it cost me to hold this position. I know this is a little bit complicated, and it's a different calculation that you go through when you decide whether to exercise an in the money call. In this case, you're really looking now. There's no real dividend to be. There is a dividend on Microsoft, but it doesn't play into it here. 36 cents. Now, if my cost of carry was 30 cents to hold this position for the next few days, which means long the stock, long the put, I would, and let's say that the carry cost was only about 15 cents, sorry, let's say the carry cost was 45 cents. And I would look at this, I go, well, it's going to cost me 45 cents to carry this position. And the synthetic call is basically worth 36 cents. So it's going to cost me more to carry this position than realistically this call is worth. Now, I might make a kind of, game time call and say, well, Microsoft dropped $25 yesterday. It could go up $25 tomorrow. And this call is technically underpriced. Maybe it should be worth 50 cents or 60 cents. That's a complete external call that I'm making and say, well, I'm willing to hold on to it for an extra day. And I did that all the time. I would say, you know what, I'm not going to mess around for an extra 10 cents that this is supposedly worth, less than the carry. I'm going to hold on to this, right? So basically, you're going to look at the carry cost of, let's say, So this is going to help you to understand where you might be getting assigned on a short put and where technically the correct thing to do is to actually assign. Now if you're long in the money put and you're not long stock against it, your carry cost is going to change a little bit as a retail customer. But technically, a market maker is going to look at this, and if the carry cost, let's say 4.5% times the strike times the number of days till expiry. If it is greater than the call on the same line, right? Same strike, same expiry. If that carry cost is greater than that, then the market maker is going to exercise that put that you're short. Now, if it is less, if that carry cost is less than the call time value, which is its all time value, right? At that point, it's an out of the money call. So that's kind of redundant, but time value should be obvious on the same line. If the carry cost is less than the call value on the same line, we do not exercise, right? You will not be assigned on that put. Now, nothing's impossible, right? I've seen people exercise calls at the dumbest times. I've seen people do stupid things all the time. Typically, it's a very, very small portion of. I could be long 100. I could be short 100 calls, and I might get assigned on 3 of them because somebody didn't do it correctly or whatever. They panicked in the after hours and something happened. So, and they did the wrong thing because they don't know what to do, or they simply just want to wash their hands of the position, sell it out in the after hours. That's fine. I've done a video on why that's wrong and why you should do it another way. You're actually getting rid of a synthetic put at that point, a free synthetic put, if you exercise those calls. So you can look up that. Maybe I'll put that link down in the description. So anyway, that's how it works, guys. So again, don't forget, we've got that live training 15th, 16th. Check out in the description below. I'm going to put a link to it. You can learn all about it. And it's really, really, really good price. The best price I've ever offered. And it includes the actual video course and all this other cool stuff, another course. So it's going to be a fantastic event. And we'll see you guys there.